From Take the Ride. Speaking of how horrible China's government sucks, I
Yes, it
read
does.
Yomi Park's Defector from North Korea's book In Order to Live, which relays her story of how her sister, mom, and Yeonmi were sex trafficked in China. Damn, I've wanted to interview her for so long and read her
Hmm.
books. I've heard a lot
She's
about her.
awesome.
She's been on Tim Pool's show. She's been around Neo. Despite only being half Taiwanese, I'm still glad to see more Taiwanese representation on Simcast. This is the only Taiwanese representation on Simcast. For a change, Taiwan #1 and Irene. What's going on? Okay, for
Thank
absolute
you.
retards like myself, what's like the low key beef? Like the Taiwan beef is what China is upset. Like China wants to own Taiwan and make
Yeah.
Taiwan not a
Oh,
country,
we're
not a
getting into
thing.
it. And okay, so
I don't care either way. I actually want to see what's going on, and I have
she's
no,
like, let me
I have
pour a
no
drink.
preference either way. I
You
just am
just
concerned.
unleashed the
I
bear.
care what you think because you actually are
Right,
invested. Like I
right.
don't care either way. I don't know.
I mean, I think I have the logical take on it, but I don't. How much of the history do I actually want to get into? Long story short, basically, the government of China right now, mainland China, thinks that Taiwan belongs to them, and Taiwan is a government is a island. It's actually several islands, but there's one big island, a couple other like small ones. It's off the coast of China, and there's like a long, complicated history between the two lands. But mainland China, the Communist Party government, they think Taiwan is part of them. But the history behind it is actually that the current government of Taiwan, right now we're a democracy. Our constitution is actually modeled after the United States Constitution, and we actually went through a lot of reforms because even when I was born, there was still martial law. It wasn't really democratized. It wasn't open, and we had to go through a big liberalization process. But when during World War II in the early 20th century, all of China was governed by the KMT, the party called the KMT, which is the Republican government. And but then they went through the Sino-Japanese War and then World War II, and they got BTFO'd by Japan basically. And because the KMT was so weakened, the Communist Party took advantage of that, kind of used the defeat by the Japanese and used how the KMT was weakened by the Japanese to take over mainland China and push the KMT out, and the KMT came to Taiwan. So the Republican government of China came to Taiwan and set up a separate government. So, and they both claim to be the real Chinese government. So that's the situation right now. So even though Taiwan is the democracy and it's the the country that is more friendly with the West, it tends to, I think, I mean, I'm biased, but I think objectively, we're the country that doesn't have giant human rights issues, and we have free speech and shit like that, and we don't oppress minorities, and we don't disappear journalists. I think that's pretty good. That's us. But mainland China, they think that Taiwan should be like militaristically conquered. That's the issue I have with. It's not just that in their constitution they say that, well, Taiwan, this land belongs to them. They, like, every other year they threaten military conquest of Taiwan, and so basically and it's been this way the whole time I've been growing up. It's been the government in mainland China threatening the safety of my family and threatening to take over my country. So that's why I have so strong opinions on it. Yeah, my whole family is there. My dad's American, but he moved there to do translation work like some 30 years ago. And he stayed there. So I moved to America alone really young to go to college, and I just never moved back. I'm 30.
I mean, how old are you when you moved here?
Oh, I was 17. I'm like,
oh my God.
How old am I now? I'm over 30. I'm old, guys. But yeah, I moved here really young on my own.
By yourself?
Yeah.
How did you do that? That's really hard.
It was okay. I already got accepted into college, so I came here for art school. And my parents helped me out for a couple years, but I actually haven't taken money from home since I was 19. I just, I'm pretty independent. I want to make it on my own, and I have American dream and everything. Like, I'm proof of it. Everything I have, I earned it. But yeah, my whole family is in Taiwan. That's why I have so strong opinions about China, because they're threatening the safety of my family.
Every time I went to one of these rallies, like one of these Trump rallies, like November, December, and then January 6th, like I would see the same thing at each one. It would always be these like old Chinese ladies. Sorry, I'm like getting a little drunk. These old Chinese ladies
Okay,
speaking
cheers.
so loudly and passionately about the CCP. They would always be
Mhm.
out there with a microphone, a megaphone, a banner. You know, they weren't the best public speakers, but they wanted to get their message out about the CCP. And I was like,
Yeah,
I respect these people, you know.
yeah. Yeah, people who had actually lived under the Chinese government and went through what they did, because the CCP took over China, and then of course there was a cultural revolution, and there was the famine, and that I mean, besides from all the death, which is the main horrible thing, but it destroyed so much of the culture, and that's something that you feel even now. It's not just that a lot of these temples and old artifacts were destroyed; it's that the cultural fabric is different, right? There's a whole lost generation in mainland China almost, and it's hard to like really understand unless you're in the culture. But it's really sad. It's like this because of ideology, they hurt their own people, and I think people who had lived through it, they are very vocal about never going back there again. And what's really sad too is um, a lot of people who have ties to mainland China but live in the West, they can't speak out. Actually, I think people should be aware of that because what the government in China does is if you speak out in the West, and this actually happened, and I think some university was like Yale or something or Cornell, like one of the Ivy League colleges. There was a student who had his parents were still in China. He wrote an article that was like mildly critical of the government, and the government went to his parents' house in China and threatened them. So a lot of people they can't speak out even if they are in the
Well,
West
yeah,
for these
I've
reasons.
heard that a lot of students from China that are here in the States at university, like they are threatened from the Chinese government, like to sell secrets and sell information. Like they will literally threaten their parents' business or their parents' lives if they don't, send back information from whatever college they're at. This happens all
Hmm.
the time. They literally caught someone sending back to the CCP like vials of fucking cancer research back.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a lot of it is they have agents legit in the West stealing our shit, but a lot of it is also they threaten their people and they threaten them with, your family safety. We might say send them off to some fucking concentration camp or just financial ruin because they have that kind of control and they don't have free speech. So
Wow, it sounds really frustrating and hard and like conflicting and shitty.
I mean,
From
at least I don't have to directly deal with
Yeah.
it. I'm very lucky that I get to speak freely.